Teammate LeBron needs just 28 points to pass Michael Jordan for first place on the all-time postseason scoring list. And it could come as early as tomorrow night in Game 5. LeBron has scored at least 28 in 108 career playoff games, which is more than half of his total postseason games.
He's on the precipice, or even there. Scottie Pippen back with us. Quickly, before we talk MJ, LeBron, your reaction to Chris Bosh and the Miami Heat parting ways amicably. He gets, I don't know what he gets in terms of the deal. Most of it allegedly covered by insurance, but as David just said, $52 million on the table there.
Well, I mean, I'm happy for Chris that he's healthy for one, and, he is getting his money, but, I would like to see him back on the court. I think he would like to be back on the court, but, hopefully things goes in the right direction for Chris going forward.
Yeah, that's a tough ask. I'm glad that they were able to end that in a good way. Meanwhile, we go back to the comparisons. MJ about to be surpassed by LeBron in terms of scoring, not so much a big deal. Earlier in the show, you talked to me about the type of scorer MJ was and the type of scorer LeBron is. What's the biggest standout in terms of the differences between the two?
Well, I think probably you could look at shot attempts. I think Michael was definitely more of a hungry scorer, a guy that looked to score the basketball. I think looking statistically at stats, LeBron would probably dominate that area. And, I listened to the show earlier when Antonio Davis was on, an old teammate of mine.
Yeah.
He was talking about the comparison. And really, when you compare these two players, it's not a fair comparison. LeBron plays the game a lot different than the way Michael approached the game. Michael approached the game as a scorer. We knew early on in his career how dominant he was. He averaged 35 or 36 one year. LeBron doesn't embrace those kind of challenges. He embraced the statistics across the board. He's a guy that, he could average a triple-double if he put his mindset to it. But he plays the game the right way, and he's one of those guys, as you've seen, guys love to play with him because he's a willing passer.
Yeah, he's a very generous superstar, as many would say, a facilitator. Chuck said this, and so I have to ask you, and this was a part of a debate for some time. He said if LeBron is able to win it all against this Warriors team as constructed with these superstars that are on that team, he would put him at Kobe status. He says he often finds it amusing that people skip right over Kobe and start the comparisons with MJ. Would he be at Kobe status to you if he were able to beat this Warriors team, or is he already surpassed Kobe?
I don't think he's surpassed Kobe at all, no. And I don't think he should be compared to either of those players because they play different positions. Kobe and Michael are both two guards. They're both scorers. They're mostly like a Kyrie. They're looking to score the basketball when it hit their hand. They're not looking to make plays for anybody on the floor. They're not looking to, be a facilitator. That's the role that LeBron plays because he's such a dominant and powerful force, and he's a great passer.
Okay, so who should we compare LeBron to then, if you don't feel those two players are a fair comparison?
I like to compare him to Magic.
Really?
I think he plays a lot more like Magic, a lot more like myself, how I play. Obviously, he's more dominant than both me and Magic because of the way that he plays the game. His physicality, his athleticism surpass Magic as well as me.
Oh, okay. Gosh, Scottie, we were having such a good conversation. So you're telling me LeBron has surpassed Magic too?
I don't want to say he's surpassed Magic.
Okay.
But I mean, they're both up there. I mean, Magic is truly one of the greatest to ever play the game, and he transcends how a big guard, 6'9", could play all over the floor, and really guy that really motivated me that I could play at the top of the floor and run offense as well. And that's what you're seeing in LeBron. He's a guy that runs a team.
Okay.
We've never saw Kobe and Michael at the point running a team. They're not comfortable in that position because when they cross half court, they're thinking to score.
I got to score. It's about me. Put the ball in my hands. Okay.
Right. And no coach want those kind of guys bringing the ball up the court because you're never going to get in your offense.
You ain't going to run no offense.
You're going to get a lot of instant offense, but you're never going to run the offense that you want to run.
All right.